Link off. Hello. How do I send the link? Alyssa.
Why isn't save coming up? Shouldn't you be able to save it?
Because I haven't done anything different. I just want to copy the link.
Do y'all want a sandwich? One person's watching. That arrow button.
Ah.
Ha ha ha. Right?
Uh-huh.
What's that?
Copy video link. Awesome.
Amazing. Hey, Lena. How are you?
Thanks. You rock. I'll notarize it later. Can somebody jump on the video link and make sure it's working?
Yeah. What group am I in, Peyton?
I'll tell you in a second.
There's Kay Russ in my group?
No.
I'm waiting for the link.
Is AJ Russ?
I don't know.
AJ, I think, finally likes me now. I think I used to just...
Like he didn't like you.
No. He did not like me, but I just didn't like him.
That's what you sound like.
How do I mute?
I think you sound like.
We'll start momentarily in like 10 minutes. Goodbye.
2 or 2:30?
The girls get there at 2:30 till 2, hopefully. I'm hoping we'll
Finished at 3.
I don't know, because I think it was so seldom.
I'm hoping we'll finish the leader part around 2, because I think we'll have to switch over some
Hudson
stuff.
over there.
It's supposed to be like a drum
He goes-
concert
So
during lunchtime. So,
it's not too bad, but I mean, 20 minutes.
I'll probably.
The school.
Yo,
What did you think about their Thursday night service?
it was awesome.
It was really
Really
cool.
What did you
good.
think about the
It
size
was like
of
less
their?
than 30.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
For the whole
it's
grade?
huge.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, they had 10 people that saved on Thursday night.
A class or 2 classes?
Same problem?
No, I think over all campuses.
Yeah, we'll
It was
split
good.
the 2.
It was kind of.
There's really not a whole
There
lot.
were middle schoolers that we did see.
Less
They
than
what?
400.
For middle schoolers.
K through 12.
that came in as
Wow.
price.
That's awesome.
It's definitely.
That's so cool.
Now, is it
I love that.
relatively young school or has it been around a while?
2001,
Okay.
so
Okay.
decent amount of time.
Anyway.
Hello, Miss Kim.
It's recently,
You killed me, dude.
like, through the years, continuously having a stream into Wiley Prep or?
Since, what was the first week class there? So yeah, y'all's class, last year was weird in that it was the first surrounded by several classes that were all in a big restaurant. So for whatever reason, last year's seniors were hardly in.
Awesome.
But
Am I with, what's that?
I'm gonna put it up on the screen.
one of the first big grades was like
Yes, you're with them.
Allison Pickering, Zach McCord, Allison Pickering, Zach McCord,
Okay, so.
Emily Masters.
Even those.
Yes.
Dylan and
Yeah.
Sarah, they were in that grade, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he worked there, right, for a little bit, or?
He's still the track coach.
Yeah.
Or the cross country coach. He got some award for it this year. So.
Yes, that is true. You speak no lies. But the 2 biggest classes are seniors this year and last year's, or seniors this year and this year's sophomores. Have big crews. And then there's not a ton of Wiley Prep junior kids, right? Swear.
There are more coming.
There's a
Sawyer, Gavin Masters.
Yep, that's a good point.
Travis and William Davidson come sometimes.
Yeah.
But I guess they're freshmen.
Where is everybody? I know some of the seniors are gone today. Hey, Mason.
No, sir.
Mason!
It's which is it's just below.
If not, we'll move y'all with some people.
He also knows a lot. And he plays it.
Neil and I, we go way back. We were on the team together.
Hey, Fudges, what's up? There, wow.
That's a crew.
There's half of our team.
So I don't know.
Hey,
I don't
hey,
know.
this man needs a table.
Mason, what's up?
Mason.
You are on here somewhere.
Oh,
There you are. You will go.
You just in your Fleming Island, please.
You're back there. Congrats.
Training the seniors to-
Okay, find your name on the board, then find this table you're sitting at.
Mandarin's on.
Addie Fudge, you're right here.
Okay, right?
Hey, Bruce.
Brandon, how are you?
Kendall, you see your name?
It's a good group.
Kendall, you're back there.
They're sophomores.
Scott, where's your people? Paige and Ellie won't be here. There's AJ.
So did I just understand how we're all in the same grade?
Yes.
Hey, Brooke. There's Rue.
John, you are right here with these good people. And then Drew.
Drew, you're at Fleming Island. You're back there. We'll explain what the names mean.
They're probably.
Yes. Yeah, you can set that right under here.
Hello, Brooke.
Okay, Pierce. This is gonna face us.
How's
This is our
everyone doing?
camera.
Good. Remember, starting at the next training, which is not next week, we'll meet at 1, which will be nice. You can run and grab lunch and then just come back here. Cool. Anyone do anything extraordinarily exciting this weekend? Who confidently thinks they had the most exciting weekend? All right, who confidently thinks they had the least exciting weekend? Kate, what made your weekend so uneventful?
I slept till 1 on Saturday, so that's like half your weekend. Right?
That is why you shouldn't sleep till 1.
What? You were the one who on the question today brought the average like down.
No, I asked to say 11.
Yeah, I mean, you were the one who brought the average later.
Who, like, on the weekends on Saturday morning just wakes up early? Like 9, yeah, Jake, you guys are my people.
Not me. You also have a kid though.
No, I mean, even then, even when I was y'all's age, I kind of.
I know.
College is when I really started to sleep. Wells does, with zero respect for my sleep. Could not disrespect it more.
I bet. Cool. Well, let's get started. They'll get seated. Scott, if nobody comes to join you, you can join a different group. People still love you. Oh, please don't leave. You're still wanted. Yeah, I know, right? So these are your subgroups. At each training, you will sit with these people. Maybe not this specific table, but these are the people that you'll be with for discussion. As you can see, you're mixed up with age, with gender, and with grades. And that's so you get to know different people in the team. And you might be wondering, what are these names for the names of your subgroups? And they're the different names of campuses for the church that we're partnering with, which is 1122. So Kaylee's like, yeah, I knew this because her brother works there. Do you know which one Dylan works at? Let's see how good of a sister you are. There you go. Perfect. So these are just the different names of the campuses, but it is also the name of your subgroups. So we're about to get to know the people in your subgroup. Scott, you can go to a different table for this so that you're not playing by yourself. But we're gonna play the game 2 Truths and a Lie. And that way, some more people. That way you're gonna learn some more things. Let's see how much you know about the people already at your subgroups. Does everyone know how to play 2 Truths and a Lie? It's pretty self-explanatory. You say 2 things that are true, 1's a lie. They have to guess which one's a lie. Cool? Awesome. Okay, y'all start doing that. Get to know people, and then we'll start with something else in a bit.
Dang, you're here. I've got
I know. The train's been better together. You guys are so lucky to have us. I mean, that's really what we're saying here.
We made the Honduras together.
I've been there twice with John. There you go. Let us know. All right, so what are we doing?
Oh, 2 truths. Oh, see, I thought you were
You're not on the dance team? No.
I will tell you.
Still got it right. Still got it right.
2 girls and a boy. And
So you wasn't responsible.
and I'm married to a 2 girls. Three kids, 2 girls and a boy.
Boom, we got it.
And we
They
kept
actually
them
giving you a
straight up
year.
for a while. And,
I know, they got it.
and I tried to give the kids. He wants to try to get away as best he could, but I finally got the corner there.
She's so pure.
7 stitches.
I can think of many.
Who's next?
I am not.
I know, I'm thinking if it's like.
Yeah, it's gonna it's gonna be tough with these two.
Yes.
I had a dog for about a year, and
You were the one that I lost.
You have a llama farm? Wait, that wasn't a lie? Where is it?
It's an accident. So like.
Is it the Ottawa?
Ask for motion for.
okay.
How many llamas do you have?
I know, we did this in discipleship, and I still think you might be lying to me, but.
Can we take a team trip to the llama farm? Do they spin? Or is that a package?
What was the last one?
We got 18, 20.
What do you do with the llama?
I don't know how long you
This is the coolest fact I've
I
ever
was
heard.
here for 3 years. It's $2.
That's better than your cow's dog. I'm
I
sorry.
sell one of them.
I think the first
There were 4.
Oh my god. The very first year that I was turkey for Thanksgiving, we said turkey. Oh, wait, I can't remember that. Okay. See, I was in the second year of job. And my brother's left with an Navy like last year. Yeah, buy that shit.
Number one.
They're not allowed to come.
Last two are pretty realistic. I think that's.
my birthday's during
This guy's having a
my birthday's like the day after.
How is it?
Very chicken.
Yeah,
Nice.
So like, they need to be actively pulling the stand.
Oh, I hate this game.
I'm gonna make you play every single time. It's the only time you play in the church.
Oh, man.
Okay, about 2 more minutes.
So I'm gonna steal some of y'all's comments. Y'all can tell me which one doesn't apply to me. How about that? I graduated from Texas A&M. I have 2 dogs. And I was a teacher.
You literally
Some
So first off, Kelly's that was supposed to be. Okay.
Okay, so it's gotta be that. And I want to make sure for the pieces.
One
They're the adult mentors. Are you Yep, package deal.
Okay, everybody, come back to the front. Raise your hand if you learned something new about someone at your table. This group learns. Anybody else learn anything new? Learn something new? Who thinks they have the best one? Shh. Come back, come back. Who thinks they had the best one? Or someone at their table had the best one? That they want to try to trick us.
Why?
True, but the best two truths and a lie. Anybody? Nobody wants to try to get anyone in the room?
No.
No. Nobody.
Correct.
Go, Scott. Go for it.
I stood in the middle of the world on the equator. And I've met the president of another country. And I've flown over Cuba. I'm going with 3.
Those are all cool. Number 3? What do y'all think? Which one?
Which one? You asking me? I haven't met a president of another country.
Oh. Yeah, I didn't know if you had
gonna
2.
say,
I was
that
going to
could
go
work.
for it.
Yeah, it's small enough.
Cool. Okay.
All right. Well, hey, so Peyton and I had the privilege to go to Jacksonville this past weekend and just kind of see some of what we've been doing. We had 4 or 5 meetings. And what last week was what we knew would be a good trip, but a little bit more ambiguous, now has a lot of concrete and color to it. And so it was the best site visit I've ever been on. I was already really excited for this trip, and now I'm just like overflowing with excitement. Like, let's just get through camp and everything so we can get to Jacksonville. The camp's gonna be awesome. I'm excited about that too, and so is Surf Dallas. But guys, like the Lord, I was telling Bo this. It's a little anxiety-inducing planning a trip, kind of as you go, which is what we're doing because of England fell through. And so last week, and there were some other things that we thought we would maybe do that kind of fell through. And I was just like, a big prayer of mine last week was like, Lord, and we give us something. We got a big team that's eager to serve in Jacksonville. And that prayer has been answered. And so, man, with that, we're gonna have 3 big areas that we will be serving, doing highly relational ministry in the form of Camp of Champs. So we told you about that, but if you actually go to the map, silly, that one. So, I'll zoom that way on in. Okay. Perfect. All right. So by the way, side note, you may not have known this, Jacksonville is the biggest city in the country by landmass. Okay, so it's not the most populated, but as far as driving from one end to Jacksonville to the other, it's the biggest city. And so it might look like we're pretty spread out, which, well, we will be. And so let me tell you what these 3 dots are on the map, because these are 3 key areas that we're going to have the opportunity to go in and do Camp of Champions with really underprivileged kids. So 2 of them are similar, and we'll be running the same program. But this one right here is this place called a carpenter shop. Carpenter Shop is basically an after-school program in Arlington, which kind of think like South Oak Cliff, one of the more impoverished areas of Jacksonville. They run an after-school program. Sweet lady named Cheryl. She's a little bit older. She was super enthusiastic. They'll have elementary age kids, which will do a lot with Camp of Champions, but then even some of you juniors and seniors especially will pull you because they actually have a teen program. And so at Carpenter Shop, there might even be some opportunities to not even do Camp of Champions, but like, and I don't want anyone to get their hopes up, but I'm looking at you, Drew. Like, there could be a situation here where you could like do some like guitar lessons with some of these kids and stuff like that. They have a music room. They have a wing that's sort of a fine arts program.
Yeah.
And so it's really cool. So we could be doing some stuff with that in addition to also doing Camp of Champions. So really underprivileged kids, they have a small team there that will also serve alongside of us, but we think we'll for sure be there in the afternoon running Camp of Champions and also supporting some of their fine arts program. So that's Carpenter Shops. These two dots are Boys and Girls Clubs of America. How many people know what a Boys and Girls Club is? Okay, it's kind of like the YMCA. Really, I think it's more like what the YMCA was originally created to do. But Boys and Girls Club, in its most simple form, are after-school programs for typically their motto is something like, I'm going to butcher this. It's kind of like a safe place to go for those who need us most. And those, do what?
That was good.
Thank you. Those who need us most are those who come from a little bit more of an impoverished community. So after school programs throughout the school year and then during the summer, they do camps Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. And they're allowing us to basically take over camp for them for a couple days and do Camp of Champions in the morning. And so this one is also, this might be inaccurate. They said this was the Arlington one. Clearly it says on the map, this is the Arlington area. The Camp of Champions, we're doing one of the Boys and Girls Clubs in Arlington, as well as one. Now, you can't see the water from here, so don't everyone look at this map and be like, I want to be at this one because it's so close to the beach. But this is the Beaches Boys and Girls Club. So this actually little area right here is a small town. You don't even know that you're going into a different town, but called Jacksonville Beach. If you've been to Pensacola, there's Pensacola Beach, and then there's the town of Pensacola. So similar thing going on there. And so this is the Boys and Girls Club of Jacksonville Beach. And so these two, Boys and Girls Club, also doing Camp of Champions. That'll be more though in the morning, because then in the afternoon they go swim. And so we met at this Boys and Girls Club. We're gonna get to meet with this guy, but we already know that the operator of this Boys and Girls Club is excited to partner with us. And so it's gonna be a lot of Camp of Champions, which you'll hear more and more about that. I don't think any of you were in Middlesboro in 2019. No, that's okay. They did Camp of Champions. It's really a program that kind of started through kind of UK USA. You've heard us talk about it. It's basically running, think Kudoku. It's kind of like running Kudoku for these kids. And so not like high intensity, but high activity. It'll be a lot of fun, but then you'll split off into little groups throughout the day. You'll do halftime in which you'll get to lead them through a Bible study. They'll get a wristband, and on the last day, you get to ask basically anyone in your group if they want to receive Jesus. And so it'll be really, really cool. The other thing I didn't put on here, so this road right here is called Pacific Highway. Somewhere in here, it might be this road right here, is San Pablo Road, is that what it's called? And which is the main Church of 1122 campus. Now, what's really, really cool about when you go to Church of 1122, it's in a shopping center. So the church has taken over an old Walmart and now also an old Hobby Lobby and built just a really, really cool campus. I don't know if you guys have ever been to a church. It's kind of common now for new churches. They'll just find where there's an abandoned Walmart, retrofitted to be a church. And so they've got that on one corner of the shopping center. And then the rest of the shopping center is like restaurants, coffee shops. There's a physical therapy place. It's actually where Mallory Bahena works. And then on the other, Mallory and Bo literally work like 10 doors down from each other. And then on the far end of the shopping center is what's called Hope's Closet. Now, Bo had told Peyton and I that they have two, what do you call them?
Hope's Closet.
No, what do you call those kind of places?
thrift shops.
2 thrift shops. Thank you. I was about to look at Scott and Christy to help me. 2 thrift shops. And I was like, okay, cool. Probably like the back, a back corner of a room. They like have a clothes rack. This thing is like nicer than any Salvation Army, Hobby Lobby, and bigger. I mean, it used to be, I think, a Ross or something. It's like an entire department store. And the reason they do that is, one, and most importantly, is to help their community, but this also helps them plant churches. And so Church of 1122 is big on planting churches. And so there's a ton of work to do at their 2 Hope Closet locations. And what we'll be doing there, it's for some of you, because I know you're gifted this way, which is awesome. God made you as lovingly as he made those that are more relational. But those that are geared more towards serving like with sweat and grit and muscles, there's going to be more of an opportunity to do that at Hope's Closet. So the hope would be, ironically, that we get to engage both ways of serving, high relational and also not like high physical labor, like we're going to be super exhausted, but also get our hands a little dirty, figuratively. And so we're just super excited how this has panned out. It's going to be awesome. Like I really do think that the Lord is, I was already convinced that the Lord is all over this, but now I'm like quadruple convinced. It's going to be good. And so key serve partners, Church of 1122, of course, facilitating, hosting us, Boys and Girls Clubs of America, Carpenter Shop, and then also Hope's Closet. And so any questions about that?
I think one of the cool things too that Bo had mentioned with Hope's Closet is one of the things he also said that we might get to do is shadow some of the workers in Hope's Closet. So they said they actually see a lot of salvations in Hope's Closet. So people will like come in and shop. So they said it's like a mix between like a thrift store and like a boutique if you mix those together. That's kind of like what it is. And so he said a lot of the workers, like what they'll do is when people are shopping, like, they'll go up to them and like talk to them. Like that's part of the job, like it's ministry. And so they'll go up to them and talk to them and ask how they can pray for them and like share the gospel with them. And so they've seen a lot of people come to salvation, just like they're going in, they think they're shopping for a coat, and then they like experience Jesus in there and like come to faith. And they connect them to the church. And so they said there's a possibility that like in the afternoons or either in the morning, depending on what ministry you're working with, like you might have the opportunity to shadow some of those workers and like get to meet them and be a part of the ministry that way as well.
Yeah.
So I think it'll just be a really cool experience.
Yeah. And so what we're thinking, this is still, yes, sir.
So will the various teams rotate through these, or will they be focused?
You'll be focused. That way you can build relationships with the same kids. So Boys and Girls Club will for sure go out. Everyone will for sure go out Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Boys and Girls Club will for sure go out Friday. And Carpenter Shop will probably go out Friday morning as well. And so do you have the schedule, or am I jumping ahead? But
we'll have a more detailed schedule.
But basically,
But
yeah, the very, very loose idea is that each morning we'll have breakfast in the hotel probably, and then we'll make a sack lunch that, Georgia and Cody will kind of help us with, and then we'll take those sack lunches to our serve sites, much like Serve Dallas and an ice chest. We'll eat a sack lunch on site, and then we'll head to sort of our afternoon serve site, or for some of them, we might stay a little bit past lunch, and then after we finish serving, we'll debrief. On Wednesday night, we'll go to 1122's student ministry gathering, which is going to be super exciting. We got to go to that. And then Thursday, they do worship services on Thursday night and Sunday morning. So we will worship with their full church on Thursday night. And we got to go to that. Yeah. And it was awesome. If you guys don't know their pastor, his name is Joby Martin. He's an incredibly silly gifted communicator. I mean, he's like a kind of a big deal pastor, but you wouldn't think it, because Bo says he's a redneck. And I think he self-admits that he's a redneck, and he kind of is. He's from small town Georgia. Kind of got the craziness, a little bit of Neil, but not Neil Mullen, Neil McClendon, or Neil Mullen, I don't know. Neil McClendon, but he's just a super, super gifted communicator, unbelievable worship. And that'll kind of be cool, because that's sort of at the tail end of our trip. And man, it's just gonna be fun to worship with them. And then you guys know about Friday. So yeah. Cool. Any other questions about serve partners? Very nice. Very nice.
Awesome. Okay, everybody has a piece of paper in front of them and a pen. So go ahead and grab that. If you need, I think y'all don't have pens. Y'all might have to grab some from another table. If you need a piece of paper or a pen, share from another table. Sorry, Scott. Here's an extra, Scott.
No. This is,
Oh,
that's
I'm
for you.
Thanks. Okay.
We have 4 extra.
So I had mentioned that we are doing. Who still needs a piece of paper and pen? Anybody? Can anyone give Zane one? Oh, Zane has one. Thank you, Georgia. Okay, I had mentioned that we're going to be doing use. Yeah, is that a shock to anybody? A testimony. Okay. But sometimes when we're in conversations with people and we're wanting to share what God has done in our lives, and you're just like talking, say Brooke and I were talking, and we're just in conversation, I don't necessarily always have time to share my 5 to 7 minute testimony. Because we're just in a conversation, it might be weird to be like, so when I was born, blah, 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 blah. Brooke would be like, where did this come from? Why are you telling me this? Or sometimes you don't have the opportunity to sit down with someone at a coffee shop and like share your 30-minute life story. But we still want to be able to share what God has done in our lives even in just a conversation. And so we're going to go over and learn our 15-second story. Have you ever heard like an elevator pitch? That term, like an elevator pitch? Like it's a way to say something, but in like a sentence or two. And so that's what we're going to learn. But every testimony or every you, like we're learning. So also this is helpful if you're going to be like, I don't know the structure of how to write my you out. This is also helpful because no matter if it's 5 to 7 minutes, 30 minutes, or 15 seconds, every single part has 3 sections to it. A before I came to know Christ, a how I came to know Christ, and then after I came to know Christ. And so that's how we're going to talk about. Has anyone ever heard of a 15-second story before? Neil, a couple of y'all? Yeah? Okay, so I am going to show y'all kind of how to write that out. But first, I'm going to share mine. So it starts of, there was a time in my life where I was hopeless and lonely. But then I learned of the love and the grace of Jesus, and I put my faith in him. And now I have hope and a purpose. Do you have a story like that? So I just shared of before Christ, how I came to know Christ, and then after Christ. And then I invited them into a spiritual conversation. So that's ultimately saying, like, this is my experience of learning of who Jesus was and putting my faith in him. And then it opens then up to have a conversation about that without being like, so this is my full 5 to 7 minute testimony, like, tell me yours. Because there might not necessarily be time for that like we have at these table groups. But when you're just like in a conversation with someone, like, I don't know, at school, and they bring up something that's like, this was really hard in my life. You can be like, there was a time in my life where I felt really anxious about some of these stuff as well. But then I met Jesus and I learned about how, I don't have to be anxious about stuff all the time. But when I am anxious, I can put hope in him. So see how you're sharing your story and your experience just through conversation. So we're going to learn how to write this out. So put this structure down on your piece of paper. 2 lines across, because it's going to say like how you met Jesus. 2 lines underneath and then 2 lines on the side. And so then it's going to start out. There was a time in my life when. Because if you've put your faith in Christ, everybody has it before. I think for the longest, I was like, I made the decision to follow Jesus when I was 6 or 7. I don't remember my before. But there was a before. For me, it was a lot of times I wrote, like, I put my faith in Christ when I was 6 or 7, but I didn't necessarily start following Jesus and being obedient to him until I was a bit older. But everyone has before. So there was a time in my life when. So write down 2 words that describe before you followed Jesus, what 2 words describe it? So the ones I wrote down, for me personally, were lonely and hopeless. But it can be any 2 words. It's your personal story, your personal experience. And then if you want to write this down on your paper next, you can, but you don't have to. But then I learned of thee. You can write that down if it will help you remember it. But then I learned of thee. And this is 2 attributes of the gospel or of who Jesus is that you just really love, or you just really stuck with you. So for me, it's love and grace. But then I learned of the love and grace of Jesus and gave my life to him. So I'll give you all a minute to do that. And then on this last part, you're going to write 2 words that describe your life after Christ because of what Jesus has done for you. So for me personally, mine is, and now I'm filled with hope and a purpose. And then it ends with, do you have a story like that? So it invites them in to a conversation about their experience with Jesus in their personal life. So what we're going to do for the next few minutes is I want you to get a partner, or if there's an odd number at your table, get a group of 3, and I want you guys to practice it. So I want you to practice going over your 15-second story. And I will say it's going to feel robotic to you because you know the structure of how you wrote it down. But when you're actually in a conversation with someone and you actually bring it up, the other person doesn't know that this is something that you practice and this is something that you know. And the more you practice it, the less robotic it's going to feel. So y'all practice it in your groups. Try it a few times. You're always welcome to change up the words. This is your story of what the Lord has done in your life. And then I want to hear a couple. Cool? Go for it.
Basically, wait on one. Your choice. All right.
You practice it, you will, but like you're having a conversation with someone and you bring it up, it's easier. It's closer.
There was a time in my life that it'll be more natural. This is just to get you comfortable with the board or whatever.
And you're not gonna just walk up to a perfect stranger and say, hey, there was a time in my life. You will have built a relationship, or you will have started a conversation. Just, you know, like, so how's your day? Or,
I've used this and
It was a while ago. I haven't been an angry person in a while. But,
you sit on Honduras
looking back on it,
with like an older kid, but like whose dad has left the country to go into find support for the family. And that was, it was kind of a natural fit because my story was that when I was young, I felt alone, afraid. Because my parents were really young. My dad. So there was a time in my life when I was afraid and alone. And then a Sunday school teacher introduced me to Jesus and got my Bible school. And I learned about Jesus always.
I get that. All right, well, let's switch up, Grace.
I have security and I know that I'm never alone. It was very natural, you know, I've been through what you've been through. So it's not, I mean, if you're talking to someone, they're like, yeah, I just got out of prison and for Robert, and the thing is, you'd be like, so, there was one time in your job qualities. Maybe do a different. So it's, you know, there's times when it's flows, you'll know spiritual type.
and I can assume you are too, right? And that's the deal, when you do these things, it's a little too much. Yeah, so.
And so we use the it's not to do that in person. Just because they have nothing. So they don't even really relate to Jesus. But you'll use other people.
That's why, like, I'm not necessarily.
There's a way, you'll know which one you use.
I have typical times.
Talking with little kids.
So that's why I think people like you guys.
I just want to practice some of mine. How long are you? They'll share his. I can share mine too.
Grace, there was a time in my life.
Say something like, when I was young, I was anxious.
But then I learned that Jesus sacrificial love and God's good purposes.
I didn't understand the beliefs.
And the glory supposed to go
And
beyond.
now I'm who I am.
Okay, about 1 more minute. That was awesome. That was perfect, Okay, let's come back together. Does anybody want to be brave and share their 15-second story? You want to?
Okay, I can.
Go for it. You killed it.
There was a time in my life when I felt lost and alone, but then I learned of Jesus' caring heart and his kindness towards us, and now I feel renewed and like I have a purpose. Do you have a story like that?
Hey, that was awesome. Good job, Brooke. That was perfect. I think you did that really well. Yeah, one thing I wanted to say, because I think this goes into 15 seconds story, or when you're sharing your you, or when you're sharing like a longer story, like with somebody. For the longest time, when I was sharing my story, I remember in high school, I grew up in church and I got saved really young. And so for the longest time, I thought my testimony wasn't very important. And so when you guys are preparing for your use, I just want to encourage you, like, no matter if you like came to faith when you were super young or you struggled a lot and then came to faith like later as a teenager, like your testimony is just as important as everybody else's, because it's the Lord doing a miracle in your life, taking you from death to life. And so like, remember that as you hear other people's testimonies and as you're preparing to like share your you with people, like nobody's testimony is more important as somebody else's or better for ministry as somebody else's, because it's God working in your life specifically and doing a miracle in your life. So that's important to remember as you guys are listening to use today. Yeah, that's all I have on that little piece. But good job, Brooke. So next, we are going to go over the first section of our books in our subgroups. Did anybody not get a book that's here today? Does everybody have their book or received a book? Yes? Cool. Awesome. Okay. Let me get our discussion up. So, like I told you, not a long read, was it? Not a long read. So, y'all can do it before every training, trust me. Y'all can honestly read this whole thing before a training, but y'all are going to be able to read the chapters needed before the training. It's going to be 1 or 2 chapters before the trainings. I really like this book. Neil and I were talking today. We were laughing because my junior year, so 6-7 years ago, something like that, I went on a mission trip to Honduras, the first student mission trip to Honduras, and Neil went on that trip, and we did this book. So he was like, I actually had a copy, which that's what my copy was from. So we're old, Neil. You're old, Neil. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding, Neil. I'm kidding. But I just thought there was a lot of things in this book. I got convicted a lot just reading the intro and chapter 1. So I just want to spend some time in discussion in your small groups. This is the first one of many. And so I just want you guys like to open up, talk. Don't just let your small group leaders talk. The more you put into these small group times, the more you're going to get out of it. So if you just sit here and make your small group leaders talk, you're probably not going to get as much out of it. Yeah. So remember that. So we have some discussion on the board and y'all are good to go.
That's kind of my question. What stuck out to you?
The one person
I'm going to give you all people.
Okay. What are we doing?
I don't know.
I don't really know.
Oh, are there? This may be the recording for
Oh.
YouTube for folks who missed it.
For the people who
So be
can't be there.
super mature.
Yeah, okay. Addie is
All right.
answering question 1. What stuck out to you in the book?
Yeah, so what stuck out to me was the field analogy, because like saying like not everybody realizes like the greatness of what was in that field, and like not everybody realizes the greatness of like Jesus, and so that stuck out to me.
That's good.
What
else?
What stuck out to you?
I think just kind of like the feeling, how he was saying that like if you don't like live your life for Jesus, you're wasting it. And so like you should, because you were made for a purpose of like serving him and bringing others to the kingdom. So like if you're not doing that, you're basically wasting away your life and like what you could be doing.
The joy of being raised is more than the pain of being killed.
I love this quote. It's in the foreword from Jim Elliott. He says, he is no fool who gives up what he cannot keep to gain what he cannot lose. So all of the things that the world values, which is, money, popularity, all those things, that's all going to go away when we die, right? But if you use that stuff to gain treasures in heaven, right, to further the name of God, you're not really giving up anything. I don't want to go into selfishly.
So even when being obedient to the Great Commission, what or who do you depend on and put your trust in? That's page 8.
Talents.
What'd you say?
My talents.
Your talents, such as?
I don't know.
His brains,
He is pretty
his musical
smart.
ability.
I usually try to just depend on
So we
myself.
can rest content in casual, convenient, cozy, Christian lifestyles with the safety. Is that what the page 8 reference is?
It's just being obedient to the Great Commission. So what is the Great Commission?
Jesus sending out all the apostles, disciples.
Make disciples of all nations.
Was that just the 12?
No.
No, it's
All the
for us too. So, so even like in the Jesus is worth it. So.
And I think the idea of this last sentence, where as you go out to do that, trust in His sovereign authority, depend on His indwelling presence, and experience His incomparable joy. I think there are times when we think we can go out in our own power, and tell others about Jesus, and save souls, and expand the kingdom. And if we try to do that with our abilities, we will absolutely get shot down and fail.
That's right.
We need to be led by the Spirit and trust in Him to give us the words to say at the right time, to have that boldness. That's my thing, is being brave enough to actually say something.
Right.
And I have to rely on the Spirit, or the words will never come out.
So, have any of y'all been on a mission trip with the Heights yet? Where'd you go?
Honduras last year.
Honduras. Okay. Yeah. So.
If you can't serve Dallas, then I would.
Yeah, Surf Dallas is
It works.
counted. It's a mission
Absolutely.
trip. So, have you done Surf Dallas?
No, I haven't.
Nope. So who to depend on and put your trust in. You have been given gifts and talents, and those have been given to you by the Holy Spirit, and they are to be used to spread the gospel, to grow the kingdom, right? That's why they give them to you. But because we're human, we're going to mess up. So that's why we give our trust, our talents, and our gifts to the Holy Spirit and say, I'm going to give these to you to use me today. And so as you're there the whole week, that's the best thing you can do, is just be in prayer every moment. Like when a kid asks you a question, you can stop for 15 seconds and say, okay, Lord, I need you to help me answer this question, and just really put your dependence on Him. And you're going to see crazy things happen when you do that. Anything else on that one? Huh?
We're about to do number 3.
Uh-huh.
We're going slow.
Are we too slow?
Oh, okay. All right.
So,
We're good.
okay. So anything more on question 2? Any other thoughts? So number 3, what are you willing to sacrifice for Jesus? And what do you think would be hard to give up? And this is on page 10, kind of talking about Jim Elliot's quote to
Mhm.
the one who gives up what he cannot keep to gain what he cannot lose.
I think like going back to page 8 where it's saying like that you have to give up your like convenient and like what you're used to, and so you have to give up like what you want. Wait, no, that's not reported right. You have to kind of like give up what you're comfortable with to like get out of your comfort zone, because then that's like where your best risk is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with Brooke. I think the hardest thing for me to give up is just like comfort and like just staying in my comfort zone.
Money, time, stuff like that.
Yeah, I can't think of the words to say that go with
Yeah,
that.
I get that. But so what do you think that would look like on this trip? Getting out of your comfort zone. Or, yeah.
Is this for me and Brooke or just me?
All of y'all.
Okay.
All of you.
I think like the main thing of going out of my comfort zone is like being the one to go up and talk to people first, because like I'm more quiet at first, and then like once I get out of my shell, like I'm pretty outgoing and like loud. So I think it's just going to be like trying to make conversation and like make relationships with people and like putting in that effort so I can get stuff.
Yeah, in like situations that are out of my comfort zone, I definitely struggle to kind of take leadership. And especially in like faith-based situations, I feel like I'm gonna say the wrong thing or mess something up. So I think on this trip, definitely just kind of like praying to God and just kind of getting some clarity to be out of my comfort zone.
How about you, AJ? What's it look like for you to get out of your comfort zone?
Pursuing that comes with pursuing God. But something I often fall into is pursuing.
Sorry, my brain's not working well today. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Are you one that likes to kind of hang back and be quiet, or are you?
I used to. Now I'm pretty.
You strike me as outgoing. So.
Now I'm pretty outgoing.
Yeah.
But I think it's more just starting the conversation about it. Because I'm fine just making conversation, but I'm not good at bringing in the important stuff.
I think that's where it starts, though, is just making conversation. You know, like if it's a little kid, hey, what grade are you in? You know, do you have brothers and sisters? You know, what do you like to do? Those kinds of things. And then it can go deeper from there, but definitely being bold and being the one that steps out and does that it can be hard, especially if you've never done it before. So
I think that's what I'm nervous for, just kind of like having to start like using the like your 15 seconds to be like, oh, like I understand, like this is how I once was. Because then, like, I guess I'm just nervous about, like, the uncertain, like, what could happen and, like, not saying the right thing, like Abby was saying.
I think that's what's going to be cool about being at the same place for 3 or 4 days is you'll start building relationships. On that first day, you might not. You might have that conversation. Man, the Holy Spirit might just say, boom, we're having this here and now. But as you build trust with those kids, then that's going to make it more comfortable. And it's cool because we speak the same language.
Yeah, one of the coolest things will be on the second day that we go to meet the kids, if that's what you're assigned to, and they like their eyes light up when they recognize you and they want to high five or give you a hug or whatever it is. You're like, all right, we're getting it, we're getting there, getting in position.
Hey, Peyton, are there people on here, and should we be including them in the conversation? They're just listening.
There's two
Okay.
people on there.
Okay. I just kind of occurred to me, do I need to let them say something? Well, they can type though, right?
That's for sure. But also people can come back.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. That's us.
No,
All right.
I don't like being famous.
No.
Better switch
AJ
seats with Brooke then.
That's right.
Because you
Or
are,
Neil.
you're right there.
Yeah. Anything else on that one about what you're willing to sacrifice for Jesus, and what do you think is hard to give up?
So let me throw out this sentence real quick here. He writes on page 10. So I'm not going off script here. To let go of the pursuits, possessions, pleasures, safety, and security of this world in order to follow Jesus wherever he leads, no matter what it costs, is not sacrificial as much as it is smart. And I would say, as someone who has lived through a couple of decades of pursuing a career of, this possessions, pleasures, and for me, really, safety and security was a big one, especially when you start having family and kids, and you want to provide for your family, and I can't do this because it might jeopardize, safety of my children, or I now realize that, it's all in God's control. It's all of that stuff is in God's hands. Whatever I need, he's going to provide. Whatever position in the world that I'm going to attain, it's going to be him putting me there, and it's going to be him pulling it down if I'm not supposed to be there. And all of my safety and security is in him anyway. So some of this stuff takes time to learn. The younger you are when you learn it and really grab hold of it, I think the more just the more years of impact you'll have for the kingdom.
That is so true.
But I can tell you that this absolutely, what they're saying here is absolutely true.
I can just confess to you guys that as a mom with young kids, I was not really willing to take a lot of risks to leave my family behind, or, for some reason I thought I could take the best care of them or whatever. So the truth is I missed out on some opportunities that I could have had, that maybe God wanted me to have, that I said no to. And so I'm like, I'll just echo what Neil said, the more you become secure in his protection and his plan for you, then it's true, you'll have more impact and get to be part of what he's doing. So.
And then there's that quote from Jim Elliot. Do y'all know who Jim Elliot is?
I don't.
He was a missionary and a very innovative at the time ministry where they would fly those small prop planes into the jungles of South America and minister, bring supplies and minister to sort of the indigenous tribes. And one of the tribes that they met was well known for not liking outsiders. And yes, and they flew in and were killed on one of their third or fourth trip in to visit these Indians. They were killed.
And they were building a relationship.
Yeah, they had started.
Yeah. There were five of them. There were 5 men that flew in and left, and then they were killed, and their families were left behind. So there's a book and a movie called End of the Spear. It's his life story.
Oh, I have seen that before.
Yeah, Nick Saint and anyway, Elizabeth Elliot is Jim Elliot's widow, and she continued his ministry and actually went to the tribe, and they recognized who she was and that they had killed her husband, and it really changed the whole relationship. Yeah.
The people in that tribe, many of them came
So he gave up everything, gave up his life, and was willing to do it, and it changed that entire tribe.
You should Googling.
It's an amazing story.
It really is. Read the story.
Okay.
All right.
We'll move on.
Number 4. If someone looked at you, at how you live your life, what would they say you reflect as your purpose? That is an ouch. What would they say? My kids are all grown now, but if someone looked at my life overall over my life, it would have been my purpose would have been to raise a good family. Probably, if they looked at me, to raise good kids, be a good parent, a good involved parent.
Yeah, that would have been mine, to be a provider for my family, because, and that was my goal for a long time, because have one. So, and while I think that is a noble goal, I don't know, that's not the ultimate. It shouldn't have been the ultimate goal.
Right. I mean, I wanted my kids to know Jesus, and Cody and I had the privilege of leading all three of them to Christ, but I'm not sure that should have been my ultimate goal. I mean, yes, I want them to know Jesus.
Well, of course.
Absolutely. But
I had an interesting story, if y'all don't mind. I'll share I had a boss, the last job that I worked at, who was from Korea. And we went to dinner with a client one night. And, he was a very closed down guy. I think you guys might know this story because I may have said something to you guys in class one day, but he had a little bit to drink during this dinner. And so he started to open up about what was going on. And his daughter had just graduated from college and was going to get a job in a different, he lived in New York City and she was going to Philadelphia or something. So it wasn't far away, but it was out of the house, right? And he started talking about how, my whole life has been raising my family, putting my kids through school, making sure they were educated and able to take care of themselves. And now that she's gone, my last kid's gone, my son's gone, my daughter's gone. I don't really know what I'm supposed to do. I don't really know what my purpose is. And again, he was from Korea. He was not a Christian. So I looked at this client that was, and I knew his wife was a Christian. The client was a Christian as well. So I just went, here we go. And I told my boss that, I firmly believe that we are here on earth with the purpose to honor, worship God. And I think that kind of emptiness that you feel when you pursue something else and that ends is God calling you to something bigger. He's like, I don't really believe in God. I don't believe any of that. Slam the brakes on that conversation for Ben. But it was, you have to be open to open that conversation. And I have to assume that someone else will come along at another point and continue that. We'll see.
It's really all about
the
obedience.
last 5 minutes, if you haven't already, move to number 5.
Did y'all have anything to say on number 4?
If we looked at your
Mr.
lives,
Neal and,
yeah, we just started talking. If someone looked at your life, what would they say is the main purpose of your life?
Really know.
School, cheerleading,
grades.
music.
I feel like mine's grades.
Yeah.
That was my dog.
For most of my life, probably grades, but I mean, I think making people happy might be good.
Is that what you feel like your
I'm trying.
people would say about you now that you're trying to make people?
The people that I talk to would probably say that.
Yeah.
Did you have anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, no. I don't really know if I found my purpose. I
We
mean,
can tell you what your purpose
Yeah,
is.
I can tell you what your purpose is.
okay, that's a very good point.
I think
But
I think what they're
others
getting at
say-
here is if can people look at your life and
Through
what
the
you're
lens of the
pursuing and
world.
tell what your purpose is. And I would, I don't know that people would look at my life right now. I mean, they're like, oh, his purpose is to stay away from COVID and, keep his lawn mowed. And,
Put his kids
and I've
through
missed,
college.
I've missed some opportunities to build some relationships over the
Yeah,
last year
definitely.
because,
Definitely. I've
we've
thought
been
about
through
that
some
a
things.
lot because I've sheltered myself. Anyway, what would it look like to make much of Christ in your day-to-day life? How can your subgroup keep you accountable on that?
All right, here we go.
Yeah.
We're getting to the meat of it.
15. So what would it look like to make much of Christ in your life?
What does that mean to make much of Christ?
Just to make him number one.
To be a happier person.
So you've heard the
nicer
term
person.
to magnify, right? We magnify you, Lord Jesus. That's the idea of taking something that seems small and making it, showing how big it and magnificent it really is.
And I mean, like, that includes like making him number one in your life, your biggest priority. Being willing to speak up about him
Right.
when no one else
Tell-
is.
tell
you
other
know,
people.
Telling your 15-second story and giving him credit for every good thing in your life. So
Standing up for what you know he would want you to do when the rest of the cheerleading squad wants to do something different.
Yeah.
Or
how you spend your time, you know. Do you join in on that nick gossip when all the other girls are doing that? Or, you know, are you respectful to your parents? You know, I got a long list.
we have seen it all. Feels like.
Yeah.
That's what you think.
So what would
Yeah,
it look
I'm sure
like
there's more.
for you to make much of Christ in your day-to-day life? What are some things you're already doing?
Ladies first.
Are you guys in school in person?
Yes.
Okay. Or are you online?
Half an hour.
Half an hour. Okay.
For me, it's just like showing everybody Christ's love and like always being kind to everybody, even if like something has happened in the past, like let it be in the past.
Yeah.
That's good.
Kindness is one of the things I do, just especially to people in the service industry. The person who's checking me out and the lady before me just wiped them out for whatever reason, you know, just being kind and understanding, patient.
Don't be rude to the waiter.
Do what?
Don't be rude to the waiter.
Don't be
right.
rude to the waiter.
I feel like for me, praying more for others, whether that's just like for me independently praying about them or me praying directly for them, like to their face.
Praying with them, yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's a great way to make much of Christ, because that shows that you depend on Him when you're going through something difficult.
I feel like leading into this trip, I'm gonna definitely start to like pray more for the trip and for the people that we will be serving and like for the conversations too.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's a big thing.
Maybe you could ask someone to pray with you for that. You know, maybe a school friend or something. Maybe you could tell them, I'm going to go on this trip. You know.
Yeah.
And involve them that way as well.
Yeah, I found that has caught the eye of the folks that I work with. It's a new job. It's a really small company, but when I told them one of the things I do, and it's kind of a non-negotiable during spring break, I take a week off in March to go serve with our students in a church in Honduras.
Bring it back to the
I've
front.
heard of people doing that. I've never known anybody.
We are going to move on, but continue having these conversations. They're great. What I want us to do is move on to our U's. So
You were first.
we have a list of who are doing the U's in our groups. So I talked to everybody. If somebody is not here in your group that's supposed to do it, raise your hand. I think it might just be y'all's group. That's okay.
What'd you say? I can't hear you.
Y'all's group, the person's not here, Mary's not here.
Oh,
so
she-
you
that's
don't
okay.
know. But that's okay. Is every other group good? And y'all's? Okay, that's okay too. Y'all can join another group for it. Okay. You don't have to do y'all's today. Y'all can just join another group because y'all's people aren't here for it. But everybody else, kids, especially if you haven't done your U before, you can listen to the people doing their U today and kind of hear what is a U if you don't know what it is. Does that work? So we'll spend the next like 5 to 7 minutes. And then after they finish, if you want to ask them some questions about them or just their lives or things like that, you can do that. So if you don't have someone at your table that is supposed to be doing their U today, you can move to a different table and listen to somebody else's U. Okay? Cool.
What did you buy? 15 seconds.
Yeah, put that on
Switch that to me. So, two of y'all know a little bit of my story. I'll keep it brief. I mean, I can go on for a long time.
Okay, everybody else, look at the date when you're sharing yours. And you take a picture. I'll also text it
I
out.
do want a picture of this because just so I know who all is in our group.
If you're not going to be there, switch with someone in your group. But also let me know.
All right.
I won't be there.
You won't be on for yours? Okay.
So, when is yours?
The last one before we go.
I was gonna say, you're gonna take my place the next time.
I guess. I don't really know what I'm saying.
Wait, so
this is like a longer, fleshed out version of this, right? So this is like the quick version. This is kind of your story, and it could start from whenever you want. It doesn't have to go back to I was born in 1973. It can be just, but it usually starts with before you knew Christ and kind of the situation that led to, right, you meeting Christ or whatever it is. And that can be kind of hard for a lot of you church kids. So I get it. So I was a church kid as well, but I have just in the last few years recently opened up more about my life growing up. It's stuff that I've kept hidden from the world for a long time, so you guys will get a little bit more story. I was born in 1973. My parents were high school sweethearts, and got married right out of high school, and I have an older sister, and then I was born 3 years later after my sister. And during that last year of their marriage, there were some problems that came up, and my parents ended up getting divorced. One of the issues was a growing awareness about my father that my mother was, there was something not quite right. Something not quite fully maternal, something not quite. She had trained to be a school teacher, and she was a very good school teacher. But when it came to parenting, she was not necessarily the most involved best parent. At the time, back in the 70s, it was very rare for fathers to get custody of their kids. It was extremely hard, actually. And so we stayed with my mother. My dad moved out, and we did see him every other weekend. But we stayed with my mom, and I would probably classify it as neglect more than abuse. We were left on our own quite a bit. We were asked to do, as I mentioned in class, asked to do chores that we would never ask 5 and 6 year olds to do, given responsibilities and punished for not getting things done that you would never ask a preschooler to do. We were left on our own a lot. My mother was a school teacher who also had a lot of social engagements after work. And so there would be times when we would come home, we would see her for an hour or two, and then she'd be gone, and we were kind of on our own. She never remarried, but she did have a boyfriend who she met, moved in with us, and he was not interested in children at all, other than what we could do to make his life easier, like take the garbage out and do the dishes and the laundry. I mean, sort of a Cinderella type story without the fairy godmother.
Yeah.
Now, I will say that my grandfather, my dad's dad, was a pastor, and they live in the same town, and so we grew up in church. My mother didn't go. She would take us, drop us off, and go back home. We would go home with my grandparents after church Sunday morning, stay, go back Sunday night. So I was fully immersed in church and in the Bible, and was introduced really to Christ from the moment I was born, accepted Christ at a VBS when I was about 4 years old. At that point, I remember is Mrs. Kennedy standing up and saying that if we wanted to live with Jesus forever, we could give our hearts to him and we would go to heaven with him. We would never be alone. And that made a huge impact on me as a kid who felt like I had been somewhat abandoned and alone. So, I think I became, God became really important to me in terms of pursuing him, other than just taking what I could get from him, the security and that friendship. But in terms of pursuing what he wanted for me, that was really more in high school, late high school. So I struggled with a lot of fear of making mistakes, was real perfectionistic. My mother was, again, a teacher, so she had high expectations for us. So there was a lot of needing to make good grades just to keep the peace at home. And it wasn't until I moved out, left home to go to college, that I really pursued God and learned about grace, what grace really meant. And so it's been a growth process, but it started with not wanting to be alone and finding that Jesus was always with you once you accept him. The week before classes started at school, I had left home and was never going back, and God provided a friend who became my wife once we graduated from college. I have 4 kids, and it's been a fantastic experience of watching them. Grateful that I've been able to provide a more stable home for them, but also seeing that no matter how stable your home is, people struggle with circumstances, with your personality meshing with other people's personality. I mean, there's always going to be struggles. You can't provide enough security in your own self for anyone to feel completely secure. So, we, same as you, introduced our kids to Christ, and they're all thriving in their own directions and in their own ways. But it's been a pretty amazing ride. One of the most exciting things has been these last few years of seeing students getting to experience sort of this out of the ordinary, right? We take you away from school, take you to a place where you may not know the language. You've never seen poverty like you've seen in Honduras, but to see that interaction with other people, right? That's what we're called to do. We're called to go and show Christ's love to others, and to watch those responses from those kids and see our kids' hearts just kind of melt. It's just been amazing. So, this is what I want to do the rest of the time I have is help you guys see what joy there can be in sharing what you guys have spiritually with others. Any questions? You guys know I'm pretty open about what I've been through.
And
So
they can just be questions about him, his
it could be my story, my family. I've been asked it all. I've been asked, if I were a shoe, what shoe would I be and why? I mean, anything you throw it at me.
I have a question about your mission.
Yes.
What's your coolest memory? What's your most memorable thing about it?
So yes, the very first, that was, I have 2. That was number 1.
I'm not surprised.
You'll be shocked to hear that Peyton fell down a mountain.
I'm not shocked. That's good.
It was a cliff on a mountain.
It was a cliff, yeah.
Every church-related thing, I feel like created so long ago.
And Neil was there right after he hit the ground.
So we were at a home in Honduras. We had pulled off the side of the highway that goes to Tela. That's the name of the highway.
I was
We
in
had
11th grade.
climbed up a hill, basically a carved out mountain where they had carved through to make this highway. And the house that we were serving was at the top of the hill. And so it's like a mountain you climb and you switch back to go up. And so it's little stair steps. Well, no, we had actually pulled off and we were walking. We were carrying. It's just to the south of that. So if you remember, if you're on the mountain looking back, there's a billboard on the side of the highway. Sorry, we'll show you pictures. It's across the street from that billboard. We went up and we were working and we really had too many people to be on the side of that hill. And so Peyton and I were taking a break and she was taking pictures, right? You had the GoPro, if I'm not.
I just handed the GoPro off.
Handed the GoPros off and she was looking,
it.
she was looking for a place to sit or she just took a step and her foot slipped and she went tumbling down the switchbacks. I don't know how many levels.
Like 3 miles.
It was a couple of switchbacks.
Like 8 feet, and I just hit the ground. I broke their plans. I felt
And
bad.
I went, yeah, she had stepped in their flower garden and fell. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is the first time I'm responsible for someone else's kids, right? and here she's laying, and all I could see was she's just laying here on her face, twitching. I'm like, oh, broke her neck, and so I jumped down, and I flip her over, and she's laughing. She's laughing. And so since then, I have seen pictures of you like get bounced off of a bed at camp onto the floor. I've seen you get the concussion from the bungee cord thing with Dylan. I'm sure there have been others. I know you just recently banged your head and almost fell.
The first year she went to camp, I was her counselor. She was in a sling. Do you remember why you had a sling?
I've had like 5 years.
Yeah.
Didn't something happen to you in like a gym class?
Yeah.
She just had.
I just know that if there's anything that's at least 2 or 3 feet off the ground, she'll fall off of it. that's my lasting memory.
That was her.
That was
his
the
most memorable.
The very first trip. The second, yeah, no, it's not going to deter me. But the other one was another mission trip we went on. We did this.
1 more minute.
We did this training, right, where you do you and then someone asks you questions. And there was a guy, and I'm blanking on his name. He's a football player at Plano. He's a kicker at Plano. And every time we would do this, every week, he would ask, what's the most embarrassing thing that's ever happened to you? And make people tell them the most embarrassing thing that's ever happened. Every time. Okay. So fast forward, we're on the trip. We're coming home from the last work day. We're in the bus. We're drenched in sweat, smelly, and this big, bulky, cowboy kid gets into the bus, right? He climbs in, he drops something, leans over like this, and just his pants just rip right down the middle. It just worn them out, and sits down.
The kid that asked for the most embarrassing
Yes,
moment?
sits
Oh, good.
down, turns around, and I couldn't help it. So I was
If
like,
you haven't
"What's
yet,
the most embarrassing thing that's ever happened
in
to
your
you?"
group, whoever just share the you, somebody pray for them, and then I'll finish with some announcements.
Who would like to pray?
Would any of you like to pray for Mr. Mullen?
I will.
Thank you, AJ.
Thanks, AJ.
Dear God, thank you for Mr. Mullen. Thank you for letting him share his story with us. Thank you for letting us go on this Jacksonville trip, even though we haven't been able to go to many places this past year.
Okay, quick announcement. Oh, I'm so sorry. You aren't done praying. That's awkward. My bad.
So let me tell you also.
I heard them say amen, and I just went with it, you know?
Yeah, that is like 1 to 7. It's super long. Is there- It's on the 23rd. Oh, really?
I'm ready now.
You should just stay.
They're pretty
You could just take an Uber over.
That's not far.
Okay, now we can come back. I'm so sorry. I heard them say amen and I just went with it. Okay, quick announcement. We have our next meeting. You see, it's not till the 23rd. It's because Mother's Day is next Sunday. Don't forget, I just reminded you, buy your mom something nice, celebrate her. There's your reminder. You're welcome. And then the week after is Senior Sunday, so we won't have a meeting that week. But the 23rd, we will have a meeting. And we changed to 1 to 2:30 because most people said they enjoy that time better. So 1 p.m., we'll be back here in the mezzanine. And then also the deposit is due by the 7th if you haven't paid it. A lot of people have not paid it. So look on your managed missions. You can pay it through managed missions, or you can bring me a check or cash. But by the 7th of May, that's in like 5 days. So please pay it by Friday. The deposit's $200. That's all the announcements I have. Do you have anything?
No, are there any logistical questions before we dismiss?
Is that managed missions on the website?
Yes, managed missions. Sorry, that's the web. That's where you fill out your application. If you go to managemissions.com.
We might need to set you up with one.
Oh,
I emailed you. I'll email you again.
okay.
I got you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Drew can help you
There's
too.
lots of information out there.
Yeah, Drew's
Drew,
Drew's a pro.
can you help your old dad who doesn't know how to use the internet?
Might be more tech savvy.
All right. Hey, thank you guys so much.
Y'all are awesome.
Little break before we train again, but continue to keep this trip, in the forefront of your mind and be praying. It's going to be really, really exciting. So,
And
Holler.
a challenge.
go ahead.
Challenge for you. Share your 15-second story with somebody over the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, and then come back and tell us.
Yeah.
About it.
There you go.
Probably next time we meet, we'll start Camp Champion training too. Probably.
Yep.
That'll be fun.
So,
Peace. Thank you guys.
adios. Bye, YouTube.